Welcome to the Secrets to Mindful Health, where we explore the hidden truths of wellness in all its forms. From physical and mental health to spirituality, join me, your host, Beth Warren, at Nourished by Beth on Instagram and TikTok, registered dietitian for over a decade, and single mom of 6, as I share my personal journey overcoming challenges towards self-love and wellness. Together with my guests, we will inspire and motivate you to prioritize your well-being and create a life of balance and fulfillment. Let's embark on a transformative journey towards a healthier, happier you. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to an eye-opening episode on heart health and plant-based living with the esteemed Dr. Joel Kahn. Get ready for practical tips and science-based facts to unlock the secrets of a healthier lifestyle. Dr. Joel Kahn, a practicing cardiologist and a clinical professor of medicine at Wayne State University School of Medicine. He graduated summa cum laude from the University of Michigan Medical School, known as America's Healthy Heart Doc. America's Healthy Heart Doc. Dr. Kahn has triple board certification in internal medicine, cardiovascular medicine, and interventional cardiology. You can find him on Instagram at Dr. J. Kahn. Welcome, Dr. Kahn.
Thank you very, very much. Let's have some fun.
I'm really excited to have you on. Extra excited because everyone needs to know that you wrote the intro to my book, Secrets of a Kosher Girl, which I'd forever be grateful for. And it was such a nice segue for not only just a kosher perspective, but it's so unique when you have doctors into dietary interventions and plant-based living as well. So I'm really happy to have you here.
Well, thank you and mazel tov.
Great. Well, I know you have a focus in cardiology, but you speak a lot about plant-based living. What kind of had you focus more on this integrative approach?
Yeah, my path real quickly, it actually started kosher.
Mhm.
I grew up in a home where that was important and I adopted it. Went to University of Michigan so many years ago, way before you were born, 1977. And the only way to keep that dietary religious ruling was to eat the salad bar in my dorm. There was no other option. And I didn't call it veganism. I didn't know what that was, but I called it salad baritism. My parents went to the Pritikin Center around then, and my mother started making lentil loaf instead of goulash. Kind of funny. So I'd go home on the weekend and try new foods. I'd be up in Ann Arbor, a pretty hip town, try new foods. And when I was doing my cardiology training, I came across Dean Ornish. And by then, actually, I'd been eating vegan for 13 years, but I didn't know it was a therapy. I just knew it was a approach to nutrition. And I hadn't been admitted to the protein deficiency ward yet, so it was working for my family. Dean Ornish taught us that a plant-based diet was a cardiac therapy in 1990. That's a year I started practice. So really, every patient I've ever talked to gets a little or a lot of introduction to nutrition and whole food plant-based nutrition. And now it's, with the internet, it's obviously been very easy. But along the way, I realized as important as nutrition is, there's stress, there's sleep, there's fitness, there's supplements, there's mind body, there's alternative treatments like infrared sauna. So I went back about a dozen years ago and got an advanced degree and kind of left my old life and said, let's give it a try and see if anybody really wants a more holistic, integrative approach. And it turns out there's not enough of me and a whole lot of them that I used to be. So I'm pretty full all the time. I'm in southeastern Michigan, Detroit, but I'm licensed all over the place. I forget, where are you?
I'm in New York, New Jersey.
I'm licensed in New York, so I have patients all over the United States,
I
which
mean,
is fun.
yeah, I love hearing that as a dietitian because I'm even kudos to you that you are so full in terms of people being open to making these lifestyle changes. I mean, the hardest changes to make is lifestyle changes. They're the most worthwhile, but they're
Right.
not just a simple take this pill and everything gets fixed. So, how do you keep people motivated, or are people seeking you because they hit that end of the road? What kind of clients,
Yeah, I'd say
patients do you get?
somewhere in the range of 50-50. I clearly get people that come to me, they're already plant based and they know everything. They've got every cookbook and they're really super cool people. And I get people that literally have never heard of any of this or have never had a doctor speak to them about it with any serious nature. And I sort of have a protocol. I don't have a dietitian on staff. I have my handful that I love to refer to. But my patients get homework. They have to watch Forks Over Knives, What the Health, Game
Mm.
Changers, You Are What You Eat, the new Netflix series. They have to read a book. Could be mine, Plant Based Solution. Could be Esselstyn. Could be Ornish. Could be Furman. Those would be the big ones. If they're diabetic, Neil Barnard, or Mastering Diabetes, Robbie Barbero. They have to read a book, and they listen to my weekly podcast, 25 minutes a week, that is plant-based nutrition and more. And then come back and we're going to discuss it. And if they fail to do that, I'm going to give them grief. They want to stay unhealthy, unhappy, never have an erection in their life, take medicines.
Yeah.
Their choice, but I'm opening the door to them that there is light at the end of the tunnel, if not to eliminate medicines, but certainly to potentially reduce, minimize, augment, any medications they might need to take.
I think that's so important because I have the same approach where it really is education. People come and they say, just tell me what to eat, but I need them to learn more than just what to eat. They really need to open up their eyes to the world that they're really stepping into in order to have the motivation and to keep consistent to push through, because it's not easy is if they see this whole world open up in front of their eyes, which I think is a lot of the resources you shared. But so what do you feel like the most consistent research has been? Because I never knew that. I learned that also. I know you had a kosher lifestyle growing up, but I didn't realize you had the step in the door of the whole plant-based vegan lifestyle. And then the whole world sort of exploded in that in a great way about plant-based, plant-forward, plant this. But what is
I'm about as OG as it gets.
Yeah.
1977. I mean, that's when I started this path. So it's 47 years.
And that's before all the assisted tools in the marketplace.
Yeah, the advantage was there wasn't any processed vegan food to entice you.
Right,
so
right.
you didn't have to grow up on, fake bologna. But, it came around pretty soon. And I can't tell you I've never had a slice of fake bologna, but it's not going to be found in my refrigerator, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm not sure I get exactly the gist of your question. It's a wonderful world to be vegan in now because there are too many processed choices, but
Right.
sometimes in a pinch or sometimes in the transition. Dr. Neil Barnard is most famous for kind of teaching, tell me the food you like and I'll show you the alternative. Well, yeah, I can't, eggs and bacon can now be just eggs and a vegan sausage now. Believe me, that's not what I'm teaching in my clinic. But for some people, for the first month or 2 months, that might be what's needed to open their eyes.
Yeah, you actually preempted my question. Would be if someone wanted to start becoming vegan, what would be sort of the top 3 things they can do to make it easier on themselves, or what should they focus on?
Yeah, well, I try and get people off dairy right away because, anything they like in dairy is available. And some of them I don't eat. I don't do a lot of, vegan butter and vegan cheeses. Most of them are too rich in coconut oil and palm oil for my taste. Or it's a nibble once in a while. But, again, I don't have a refrigerator full of those things by any choice. I'm very open to extra virgin olive oil, but not those fake substitutes. But nonetheless, get rid of dairy. And if it has to be early on, that it is some of these substitutes that you can, a creamer, and a lot of the creamers, coconut oil creamers, there's too much oil in there for me. But as a transition, not a bad choice. And I'm always experimenting. I'm working just unpaid right now with a new company making some just premier, plant-based milk products. Amazing.
I love that.
And the thing is, too, a lot of people feel better because there's so much lactose intolerance, and some people it's acne, and some people it's just that they're just not reacting well to dairy. So there is a lot of benefit there. Next, always increase whole foods. So maybe they're still having salmon, and maybe they're still having protein. I love that term. I have a salad with some protein. Well, put chickpeas on it, you got protein. But nonetheless, they're talking about animal protein like there's no plant protein. But, just eat a giant salad every day is a great start. Rich Roll, famous athlete, his introduction was a giant green smoothie every morning. And it was so nutritionally enhanced that he just felt better and performed better way before he was completely vegan. And that's a good start. Maybe it is a smoothie with just blueberries and some arugula or spinach or kale. And I'm a big hemp seed, flaxseed,
Oh, I
chia
love
seed
those.
person for the fiber and the omega-3. Maybe it's just one extra, giant serving of fiber-rich, whole foods in the sense of a salad. And then, I got to teach people how to survive restaurants. That
Mm.
was super challenge. On highway trips long ago, it was literally pulling into a Wendy's and getting a baked potato with nothing on it. I did that recently just for nostalgia, and I found out it's in this terrible
That's your
plastic.
French fry?
It's in this terrible plastic container. So you got a
Mm.
hot potato in a plastic container. You're
Mm.
killing yourself a different way with
Right.
plastics, microplastics, and the rest. That's all, But now with Chipotle's and Paneras and even some of the fast food places, although you're not going to find me at a fast food restaurant, but
Hmm.
it's easier to survive out there. And there's just so many nice choices. Many people don't know. One of my education pieces is I tell people check out the app happycow.net. You know of it, but
Mm.
boy, it's been around 30 years, and you can be in Istanbul, Turkey, and you'll find plant-based restaurants, and you can be in Peoria, Illinois, and find plant-based restaurants. So it's a great app when people particularly are traveling for business and they don't realize that there's a whole food market 2 blocks away they didn't know about. Or
Wow, that's a great resource.
yeah, it's a great resource, and it's got so much legacy that it has. It's updated and it has good listings. So
Yeah.
there's maybe others, but that's the one that I tend to turn to even when I'm out of town.
Hmm. Okay, kind of like the kosher world where they're like kosher GPS and you got to
Yeah,
find
there
the
may be. I don't even know, given that I satisfy my interest in keeping kosher rules by
what
just
through
eating.
vegan. Yeah, for sure.
There may be equivalent apps for, find a kosher
Hmm.
restaurant near me. Obviously, the
Yeah,
search engine will do that for me.
right. More to the point of you doing this 30 plus years ago and you had none of this. So,
Yeah.
and we could really take it from you. What do you feel the biggest misconceptions are? Like, for example, you posted something about soy, I think even today or yesterday about, and
Put a-
people freak out about soy. And, you're referencing coconut oil a few times. Doesn't seem like you're a little cautionary on that. So, what are some misconceptions of foods people have?
Yeah, certainly it appears there's a famous organization called the Weston Price Organization
Hmm.
that's pretty much teaches, ancestral eating, of which there's such a huge scientific controversy. What's ancestral eating? Because even in the last 6 months, there was a major research study, I think, out of Morocco, that ancestral eating 85,000 years ago in Morocco proved to be by very scientific isotope analysis, largely plant-based. I thought they were all
I'm
meat
not
eaters.
surprised. The whole culture is plant based.
Plant-based, yeah. And it was representative of, Paleolithic eating 85,000 years ago. But the Weston Price Society probably gets credit for really spreading the word inappropriately that soy was a food that caused, man boobs and cancer and erectile dysfunction. And couldn't really be anything more than the truth. Nowadays, given the long history of glyphosate and GMO alteration of food, you want to buy organic soy
Hmm.
milk, organic tofu, organic tempeh, organic edamame, organic miso soups. But protein rich. Not that we have to obsess over protein, but we obviously need some fiber rich. Full of what I call plant nutrients, phytonutrients that actually appear to reduce heart risk, reduce cancer risk. The paper I talked about on social media, Instagram this morning, was if you choose soy milk organic over cow milk, your cholesterol goes down, your inflammation goes down, and your blood pressure falls a lot. And it's not the newest data in the world, but it's just another piece. And I write a newsletter for about 20,000 physicians every week, new science.
Hmm.
I write a newsletter for patients. I do a podcast based on the new literature. So I am reading science all the time. And it's 98% to 2% plant-based science and health benefits versus very rarely seeing anything about animal products and health benefits. The latest study was actually the ketogenic diet alters your gut microbiome for the worse and raises your cholesterol for the worse. That's the newest study out. There's so few studies, so it wasn't. I think there was actually a ketogenic study in pancreatic cancer, but hopefully
Wow.
none of it. none of us, and it was actually favorable. But
Mm.
so, if I were stuck with pancreatic cancer, I
All
would
right.
look at all the alternatives out there. But thank God, a
Right. Right.
reasonably rare condition.
Right. Meaning ketogenic has a place. That's how it initially started.
Maybe for brain cancer,
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
for pancreatic cancer. I'm not sure plant-based diets wouldn't do the same.
Right. Right. That's true too. I think when you try to extrapolate something and make it fit into something else is where sometimes problems arise. So soy has been a pretty consistent. Isn't that funny how some
So that's,
marketing?
you asked me, that's a misconception.
Hmm.
Certainly Dr. Stephen Gundry of the book Plant Paradox tried to destroy the health benefits of legumes, the killer lectins you find in beans,
Right.
peas, and lentils. And, there may be 1% of the population that gets a bit inflamed with a high legume diet. And he included, nightshades like eggplants, peppers, and tomatoes, some of the healthiest foods on the planet. There may be 1 or 2% of people that actually do appear to get inflamed. But for most of us, beans, peas, lentils are undoubtedly the number one food for longevity. Study after study after study after study says people that concentrate on eating those for food source, protein source, carbohydrate source, have a good chance of living longest. That's blue zones and other studies. The misconception that eggplants and tomatoes and peppers are, deadly, and we have to prepare them with such caution. Don't
Hmm.
eat raw kidney beans. That's a lesson for life. I agree with Dr. Gundry, but
But
that
who's eating
book,
that?
well, yeah,
Yeah.
good question. The
Right.
book, The Plant Paradox, was huge misinformation. And I would say the same thing is true of the gluten story. Yeah, you
Mm.
got celiac disease, no doubt. And maybe 5% of people are gluten sensitive. They actually feel worse eating whole grains. But you take the rest of the scientific data over and over this week, huge study, I think it was 400,000 people,
Mm.
that if you get your fats in your diet from whole grains, and there are some in whole grains, you actually extend your lifespan and lower your heart risk.
Mm.
And any other study of whole grains typically shows your odds of avoiding disease. Certainly opposed to white bread, but don't eliminate whole grains from your diet. Whether it's Dave Killer bread, Ezekiel bread, homemade bread.
Hmm.
I'm not sure sourdough bread is considered, whole grain bread, but it's certainly got all the probiotic gut
Hmm.
advantages. So we are we eat bread in our family. We'll have nice vegan challah tonight, but
Right.
my
That's
wife is
yummy.
quite the master of making homemade bread,
But I'm
which
sure
is
you
a
don't
joy.
sit at the table for 20 minutes picking at the challah. I'm sure
Yeah,
you
that's
have.
it's pretty rare during the week to have a sandwich. So my
Hmm.
actual amount of bread during the week is reasonably low. In fact, it's such a damn treat to have a nice whole grain
Right.
hamburger and a black bean, burger, and a tomato and a red
Yeah.
onion, and little whole
And I
grain mustard.
and that sounds so nice to feel like you get to a point where that's your treat and you actually thoroughly enjoy it, meaning that just shows so much about what your diet is as a whole that that's the treat and it really is a treat to you. So you reference also coconut oil and that's something that comes and goes in
Yeah.
controversy.
Yeah, there isn't the definitive study, but just based on 70 years of data that high saturated fat diets, at least in some people, dramatically raise their blood cholesterol level.
Mhm.
And extended times 5 years, 10 years, 15 years probably raises their risk of heart attack, stroke, erectile dysfunction significantly. High saturated fat diets are, basically blamed for most cardiovascular disease and are not the nutritional recommendation of almost every nutritional society. Just in the last month, the United Kingdom updated their nutritional guidelines, limit saturated fat. Well, way more than even a beef burger is coconut oil and palm oil. So
Mm.
although the data isn't definitive, it certainly is suggestive. If you can find a nutritional source, I'm a big extra virgin olive oil, but that means like a tablespoon a day, not
Right.
5 a day. Organic avocado oil. Seed oils are another, and people go crazy, but that's okay. I don't care if they go crazy. Right now, TikTok, Twitter, everybody considers seed oils, the devil. I mean, there's so many misinformed nutritionists. Unfortunately, the science says, in fact, this latest study that praised whole grains praised vegetable oils, and so does, and it was a United States study. It was not Harvard, but the Harvard School of Public Health data. And these are not perfect studies, but it's actually hard to find actual data that seed oils harm us. Now, yeah, I don't go buy Mazola corn oil off the shelf in a plastic bottle. You're not going to find that in my house. But actually, there's overwhelming data that, horrible to say, but organic canola oil is a pretty heart-friendly oil. Again, we don't have it in my house, but
Yeah.
I just think what seemed to be nutritional truths. So you asked for three or four,
Yeah, these are big ones because, canola oil, coconut oil, soy, these things. I don't know who is their marketing like PR guy, but it really hooked.
Yeah, they're just being overwhelmed by people with big numbers on Instagram, and it's so easy to say. There are some authentic. I'm thinking of somebody on Twitter with a PhD that does nice nutritional reviews, and he just went through all the studies on seed oils about 6 months ago, and shockingly, most of them are positive. Now, some people choose in the plant-based world a low or no oil diet, kind of mimicking Okinawan populations. Following Dr. Esselstyn, Chef AJ, even Dr. Ornish and all. And that's great too. If you want to do that, you can have a very low oil diet and be healthy. But I favor more the Dr. Joel Fuhrman nut seeds, avocados, and in my case, a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil a day.
Right. And I think what's important caveat there is, let's say they did decide the low oil diet, whatever it is, it's what else are they eating around that. And a lot of what you're referencing is about quality, is about quantity in the moment, quantity in the week, the rotation, the balance.
There just was a study published 4 weeks ago from University of Florida, Gainesville, relatively small study. I think it was 40 volunteers that were eating Florida food, and they were put on whole food plant-based diets. And I think they did it for 4 weeks, took a break, did it for 4 weeks. One of the 4-week whole food plant-based diet was high olive oil, but it was like 5 tablespoons a day, pretty high olive. And the other was less than a teaspoon a day. It was permitted, but it was limited. And the conclusion of the study, because it really hadn't been examined, only vegans care about this mini topic, but the conclusion was both diets benefited compared to the standard Florida diet people were eating. Now, there was some indication that the cholesterol was a little lower on the low olive oil diet versus the higher olive oil diet. It's not much of a marker. I mean, it was a 4-week study, healthy volunteers, no data on blood vessels, no data on, much else. But, some people are using it to say, eat a whole food plant-based diet a little lower in olive oil versus a little higher. And if that's what you want to do, you can take it. I think it's called the Heart of Nutrition paper. Was the title.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment at the end of that. Like it is probably beneficial, but not too much. I mean, like everything. I'm wondering, because you are Dr. Kahn, cardiologist. Let's say people are going to their doctors and they do have high cholesterol. They right away ask to be put on statins. What's your opinion? Obviously, everyone's situation is different, personalized. Everyone should consult their doctor. But how do you approach that with someone who has high cholesterol and they come to see you?
Right. This is probably the number one thing I do in my clinic all the time. And this is, hardcore cardiology now, but there's this insane deficiency in American medicine that you get to 45 years old and your doctor starts saying you need a mammogram, you need a colonoscopy, you should get a gynecologic exam for cervical cancer, a guy should get a prostate exam or blood work. And nobody screens for heart disease. If you think about it for a minute, it's insane. We know more people die of heart disease. You'd have to assume that there's no way to screen for heart disease. Turns out, hardcore cardiology, for about $75 in your local town, your doctor writes you a prescription for a heart calcium CT scan. It's a CT scan, no injection, no iodine, no pain, no claustrophobia. It takes 5 seconds. Every hospital in America basically offers it. Cash price. In Texas, it's covered by insurance, but you have to wait to age 50. I like age 45, same age as colonoscopy. And you get a score. And if you come back 0, you're on a pretty good path. And just like a colonoscopy, do it again in 5 to 10 years. You're 45 years old and you come back with a number, 98, 142, it means how much plaque is in your arteries. You got a problem, NASA, and you've got a real eye-opening indication that you are on a road that could lead to trouble, and make the changes now. Watch those
Mm.
documentaries, change your diet, get your gym membership going, drop the weight, get your sleep, stop smoking. And that's where statins come in. If you've had a bypass, a stent, a heart attack, a lot of people should be on a statin. Now, I'll give them all generally 3 months to make the diet changes and
Hmm.
recheck. Some people, cholesterol drops 100 points. Some people don't, even though they work very hard at it. They get
Hmm.
very frustrated by it. But there's a lot of genetics involved in your cholesterol level. Your microbiome is involved. And if they can hit incredible numbers, they may be able to sneak by without it. But same thing with that CT scan. It's not just my idea. It goes back 20 years. But now even the American Heart Association says highish cholesterol, calcium score looks pristine. Yeah, work on your diet, go to the gym, lose weight, manage stress, do it again. And if you have plaque, maybe you ought to consider. I'm not anti-statin, but I'm very specific who gets it. Everybody gets a vitamin called coenzyme Q10 or
Hmm.
CoQ10, a little bit protective on their body if they're taking a statin. I use very low doses, and it works out well. My patients' numbers are really good. It's a combination of lifestyle and kind of mini dose prescription drugs if needed.
I'm shocked how not often I hear of that scan and how simple of a concept and something to do that just helps you give you more data about where you need
Just
to
a
go.
little more work. It's not a rubber stamp. We call it personalized medicine. Mr. Jones is different than Mr. Smith, and
Right.
Mrs. Adams is different than Mrs. Cornwell. I mean, you got to personalize it. It takes a couple more emails and follow up, but it really, I think, we don't have the definitive study, but we do have statements by, American Heart Association. You don't need statins if you have that CT scan, and it's a
Wow.
it's a beautiful zero.
I love that. And what about omega 3s? Like the back in the day when they were discovered, they're like, oh, supplements. And they're like, wait a second, what are you really taking with that pill? Or is it prescription? Does it really help?
Even in the vegan medical community, there's a controversy. There's some that feel, a tablespoon or two of flax a day, you're done, and many people don't
Mm,
do that, and they should.
that's an easy one.
Very regular on that. As opposed to my good friend Dr. Joel Furman, who believes you should probably supplement with omega 3 food and supplement because there's algae based omega 3 and there's obviously fish oil. And you don't have to go high dose, you can stay low dose. There is a blood test. We're pretty big on checking vitamin D levels, and God knows there's so many people deficient. And you
Crazy.
can try and do it with sunshine and mushrooms, but you might want to take a supplement. It looked like during the COVID era, and we're not
Hmm.
done with COVID. We're just, thank God, much less of it. People with good vitamin D levels had much more defense against serious COVID than people with poor. And I see people all the time. It's incredible. They have no vitamin D in their body, and we got to get them up. But there is a blood test for omega 3 called Omega Check. It's available, Quest Lab, for example, LabCorp. And you might want to know if you're a plant-based eater or a meat-based eater. I mean, people eating salmon 3 or 4 times a week are probably going to get good omega-3. People that happen to be taking a couple big juicy fish oil capsules a day, although what you're buying at the big box stores is pretty junky quality,
Right.
well, often. So you might want to know. So I checked that blood test, and it's the number one deficiency in my clinic is people horribly deficient in omega-3. Vitamin D is number two.
Right. And
And we
likely
supplement.
likely
I'll give them,
related to their diet.
yeah, 3 months of chia, flax, hemp, walnuts, leafy greens. Maybe I had a patient this week. They stopped all chicken. They're eating salmon 3 times a week. So their next blood test is going to be much better. They didn't want to be vegan. But now I got to worry about mercury toxicity. So
Hmm.
when I see them, I'll probably check their blood mercury level, and it may be obscene. That is the reality of it. So I like vegan algal oil omega 3, as an option.
Wow. I feel that when people come to see you, they might come for just heart health and they unfold this whole world and probably feel 8 bazillion times better.
Yeah, some of them, it's always a joy when they come back and say, sleep better, energy better,
Hmm.
skin clearer, they're pooping better. God
Hmm.
knows we poop the best on the planet as plant based eaters.
Yeah. Okay. So if we
Actually,
have,
just, A new article, Constipation is a Risk Factor for Heart Disease. True study.
Oh, wow. Well, that makes sense because it's a reflection of your gut, I would think. And
And
it's
there might be the kind of foods they're eating that promote slow, GI transport versus all the fiber we eat and, with some hydration, right? But
yeah,
interesting new one. Yeah.
very interesting perspective, but one that's needed. I mean, how many ways we can figure out how to sort of send the same message, but it doesn't matter. The more ways that we can find that make people listen, the better. And it's really helpful to have someone like you on Instagram sharing the good word, meaning science-based, evidence-based research and the up and up on it, like the soy study, and suddenly you're talking about it. So we really appreciate it. What could we leave everybody with, taking into account everything we talked about today?
Yeah, you really have so much power in your hands to lead. Who doesn't want to be, I'm 65 plus. I mean, who doesn't want to be as close to medicine free, as close to doctor free, wake up in the morning, have energy, enjoy family or enjoy your career, and you got to start that in your 20s or 30s and your 40s. Yes, you can catch up late in life, but, and we control that with our sleep, get 7, 8 hours with our fitness, work out, stretch, lift weights, with our premium nutrition, spend a few more dollars on high quality food, high quality water, teas and coffee, and your vices. Look your vices in the face, your sweets and your processed junk, and your excess alcohol. And just don't pay the price down the road. There's a famous quote: "A person with good health has 1,000 dreams. A person with poor health has only one dream left." And you just don't want. I have so many people that have that one dream left. If I could just feel better, or remember where my car's parked, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
remember
sure.
remember what sex is, or remember what a slim waistline is. They it's just a memory. So you got to plan for success, or you'll fail forward.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Everyone can follow you on Instagram at Dr. J. Kahn and
Thank you.
contact you there, I guess, if they want to see you in practice as
Yeah,
well.
very easy. I do actually respond to the messages there.
Yes. Amazing. Okay. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Don't forget to hit subscribe or follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Nourished by Beth, or listen on Spotify at the Secrets to Mindful Health podcast.